It was a Thursday morning, just past 7 a.m., when I stepped onto my porch, sweat still clinging to my shirt from an early run. The neighborhood was quiet, most folks still sipping coffee or herding kids into minivans. Then I heard a sharp, metallic clank from my driveway. Not a drop tool or a car door, but something heavier, deliberate. I rounded the corner and froze. 3 guys in cheap navy vests, embroidered with Oakview Property Control Division, were crouched around my off-duty Jeep, ratcheting a boot clamp onto the rear wheel. A 4th stood nearby, clutching a clipboard and a ticket book that looked like it was printed off a home computer. Their SUV idled in my driveway, blocking my garage, trapping my patrol cruiser. Across the street, Lisa Hammond, the HOA president, was filming from her porch, phone raised like she'd just caught a fugitive. "Sir," the clipboard guy barked, waving an envelope, "we're impounding your vehicle over a $9.57 outstanding HOA balance." I stood there, arms crossed, staring at these dollar store cops who had no idea I was the actual chief of police. You're probably wondering how I ended up in a driveway standoff with fake enforcers over pocket change. Let me take you back to how it all began. It started with a $9 fine, stapled to my front door in bright yellow tape, like I was being served an eviction notice. Late HOA dues payment. It screamed in block letters, threatening compound penalties. I've lived in Oakview for 12 years, never missed a payment. My dues are auto-drafted on the 1st of every month from an account I barely check. I figured it was a mix-up, some intern typing the wrong number. I made a mental note to stop by the HOA office that Friday. That's where I met Lisa Hammond, the newly elected HOA president, perched behind a counter in a crisp white blazer, sipping from a monogrammed tumbler that probably cost more than my monthly dues. "Oh," she said, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "You're the delinquent." I showed her my bank statement, proving the payment, even offered to pull another copy. She glanced at it like it was junk mail and said, "The fee's been assessed. Appeal it at the next board meeting or pay now to avoid escalation." Escalation? Over $9? I paid it, just to move on, but Lisa wasn't playing a short game. Within a week, 3 more notices arrived. Grass half an inch too tall, my late wife's ceramic bluebird on the mailbox deemed unauthorized ornamentation, and a fine for using the wrong recycling bin color despite the city issuing only one kind. Then came the drones, buzzing over my backyard during dinner, their red lights blinking like tiny spies. I caught one hovering above my fence and traced its path back to Lisa's garage. My security cams confirmed it. She launched it from behind her azaleas, like a suburban commando. I didn't confront her, not yet. I'm not the type to lose my cool. I wear a badge for a living, and I've seen what happens when ego overrides reason. But it wasn't just me. Neighbors started talking. Tom Reynolds, a firefighter with 20 years on the job, got cited for his visible hose reel, which his kid uses to clean his dad's old Mustang. Emily Carter, an ER nurse working grueling shifts, was fined for planting daisies without written approval. Meanwhile, Lisa's board members had tacky Halloween inflatables up in June and dead string lights dangling from their eaves until July. The rules weren't rules, they were weapons, and Lisa was swinging them like a club. I tried the diplomatic route. The next HOA meeting felt like a kangaroo court in a rec center basement. Lisa stood at a podium, clicking through PowerPoint slides on compliance trends, ignoring complaints from anyone she didn't like. I asked about the drones. "The community deserves to feel safe," she snapped. I asked about the bluebird. "Symbolic imagery requires pre-approval to avoid unwanted affiliations," she said, like my wife's keepsake was a gang sign. I asked about targeting Tom and Emily while her cronies skated. She stared at her tablet, silent. I pulled out the original HOA charter, pointing to a clause requiring a full community vote for enforcement changes. She smirked. The board updated that language. No vote, no notice, just changed. My fists clenched, but I walked away. I needed evidence, not a shouting match. That night, I dug into the HOA's bylaws and property maps. Every inch of Oakview was under surveillance or subject to inspection. Lisa's street, though, had 0 violations in 6 months, not one. I cross-checked the data. Her husband, Greg, her appointees, her friends, all untouched. It wasn't oversight, it was a pattern. I started documenting. Body cam on when I mowed the lawn, photos of every notice, motion sensors at my driveway after I caught someone measuring my trash bins with a carpenter's level. I saw a neighbor cited for a fence post crack that had gone ignored for years. It wasn't about standards, it was about control. What Lisa didn't know was that I'm not just a guy with a badge. I'm the chief of police, with a decade of busting gangs tougher than her clipboard crew. I've built internal affairs protocols across 3 counties, and while Lisa was nickel-and-diming daisies, I was building a case. I filed a complaint with the city zoning office, citing illegal drone surveillance. I sent Lisa's emails to a county ethics advisor I know. I opened a file, Operation Curb Check, and every violation she slapped on me went in, cross-referenced with board agendas and timestamps. I traced the HOA's payment vendor, smelling bad money. Lisa had picked the wrong driveway to mess with. I mow my own lawn, hang my own lights, but I've worn a badge long enough to spot a racket. That $9 fine was her smoke test, and now her whole scheme was about to catch fire. Back to that Thursday morning. The clipboard guy, puffing out his chest, said, "Fees have compounded. You were notified." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean those flyers shoved under my mat like pizza coupons?" He didn't blink. "We're here to enforce, not debate." His badge read, Oakview HOA Auxiliary Enforcement. No state seal, just shiny plastic. The vest screamed dollar store, one guy's earpiece dangling unplugged, another sporting sunglasses despite the clouds. "Show me your business license," I said. Clipboard hesitated. "We're HOA authorized." Not what I asked. "Are you licensed to enforce civil penalties? Because if not, you're trespassing and tampering." One of the boot guys piped up, nervous. "We're not cops, just compliance." "Damn right you're not," I said. "But you're about to wish you were." I stepped into my garage, leaving the door open. Clipboard shouted about consequences, but I was already suiting up. A minute later, I walked out in full uniform, badge gleaming, sidearm holstered, body cam blinking red. The air shifted, like a storm rolling in. The earpiece guy stumbled back. A boot tech dropped his wrench. Clipboard's jaw locked. "You got quiet," I said. "Funny how that happens when real authority shows up." I held out my hand. "IDs. Now." They fumbled. Clipboard stammered. "We weren't told." "Not my problem." I cut in. "You're on private property, wearing fake uniforms, trying to impound my car with no legal standing. That's 3 felonies before breakfast." "IDs. Move." One guy bolted, a clumsy sprint down the sidewalk. I radioed dispatch, gave descriptions, and detained the other 3. Deputy Sanchez nabbed the runner 2 blocks away, panting and pleading. None had credentials, no license, no bond, nothing. 2 were ex-mall security, hired by Lisa. The others were cousins of board members, paid cash to play cop. Their property control division was a farce: discount patches, Word doc tickets, and Lisa's signature on a memo. I arrested Clipboard's real name Carl, alias Officer C, for impersonation and tampering. The others got citations, pending charges. Lisa stormed over, her floral robe flapping like a battle flag. "You've overstepped," she yelled, finger jabbing. "This is HOA business." I held up Carl's fake badge. "This is fraud, Lisa. You authorized unlicensed goons to harass residents over $9. That's not business, that's a crime." She screamed about my outstanding balance. I laughed. "Paid. But you're done playing dictator." She huffed off, muttering about lawsuits, but the neighbors' phones caught it all. The tide was turning. I didn't stop there. That night, I sat in my home office, coffee brewing, digging deeper. My cruiser was back in the driveway, the boot in evidence. Carl was in a cell, reading the penal code. The HOA went silent, but I wasn't here for quiet. I wanted answers. Every HOA files public expense reports, and Oakviews were a goldmine. In 1 year, they'd billed $80,000 to Community Safety Logistics for a neighborhood with no gates and a part-time groundskeeper. The money went to Horizon Safe Solutions, LLC, a security consultancy with a P.O. box and no employees. Its registered agent? Linda Tate, Lisa's cousin, a former nail tech turned compliance entrepreneur. Horizon billed $216,000 for patrols, $9,000 for vehicle deterrence, and $13,000 for unregulated occupancy resolution, code for bullying people over porch lights. It was a grift, plain and simple. I called in my team. Deputy Elena Ruiz, my precinct's sharpest, and Ryan Patel, a cyber analyst who owed me one. We turned my kitchen into a war room, spreadsheets and invoices glowing on laptops. Elena matched names to addresses. Ryan pulled IP logs from the HOA site, tying edits to Lisa's home router at 3 a.m. I hit the streets, talking to retirees who'd seen Oakview before Lisa's reign. George and Clara Whitman, a couple in their late 70s, showed me 20 violation notices fines for mailbox hinges and non-regulation gravel. They'd paid thousands, fearing a lien. They called it the compliance crew, Clara whispered. Said they'd mark our file for collection. It wasn't fine-sit, it was extortion, targeting seniors with legal jargon and threats. Then my wife, Nadia, showed me a text from her Hospitala parking pass reminder, sent after her shift. Odd timing, she said. I checked my calendar. Nadia worked nights last week, and our cameras logged 3 HOA inspections right after she left. 9:17 p.m., 2:04 a.m., and 4:46 a.m., the morning of the boot stunt. They weren't random. Lisa had our emergency contact forms, Nadia's job, shifts, everything. So did other residents. She'd turned our private data into a hit list, timing visits when we were gone. That was the line she shouldn't have crossed. We built a 600-page dossier operation gatekeeper with drone videos, financials, and Lisa's emails. It went to the state AG, Channel 7 News, and 3 retired lawyers in Oakview, one a former federal clerk. Lisa thought she could bury it with denials and crocodile tears, but I'd flipped the board. The next morning, the HOA's meeting sign was blank except for one word in Sharpie: investigation. Lisa's house was quiet, her drone pad gone. The air felt electric, like the hunter had become the hunted. The final showdown came at an emergency HOA meeting called to push tiered property oversight with biometric locks on tool sheds. Lisa kept it vague, expecting her loyalists to nod along. She didn't know Edward Klein, the treasurer, had flipped, leaking her payouts for a new deck and marble counters, funneled through Linda's fake company. The DA greenlit our sting. I wore a wire. Elena posed as a neighbor, and Ryan ran surveillance from a van. We rigged a camera in the podium mic, catching every word. Lisa swept in, coral blazer blazing, preaching about restoring order. Her plan: lock out non-compliant residents from shared tools. I raised my hand. Protecting lawnmowers from what, Lisa? A weed whacker cartel. She snapped. People like you instigators who think badges make them untouchable force stronger measures. I slid a document across the table. Lisa Hammond, you're under scrutiny for fraud, wire fraud, illegal surveillance, impersonation, and elder coercion. She laughed until Elena walked in, badge out, dropping a warrant like a guillotine. For officers, 2 techs, and a county auditor followed. Lisa's face drained of color. Her board VP Sandra Lee, Secretary Noah Kim, Compliance Officer Ray Von Froese. Sandra dropped her coffee. Ray tripped over a chair. We arrested Lisa for embezzlement and conspiracy, Sandra and Ray for aiding fraud, Noah for faking invoices. Residents outside filmed, stunned, as Lisa was cuffed. By dawn, headlines blared. Chief busts HOA shakedown and suburban tyrant toppled. The state froze Oakview's accounts, suspended all fines, and within weeks, 91% of residents voted to dissolve the board. Lisa sold her house at a loss and fled to a condo, where rumor has it she shares a washer. The fake SUV became a dunk tank at our block party, raising $2,000 for a playground. I put up a sign, protected by actual law enforcement. No drones, no notices, no emails since. Nadia parks diagonally now, just because she can. The new family in Lisa's old house planted tulips, and their kids skateboard in the driveway. I park my cruiser 4 inches over their line sometimes, sipping coffee, listening to birds. Lisa thought she could bully a neighborhood with a clipboard. She forgot who was watching and who writes the rules.